This is The Blockchain Show. The Blockchain Show is a weekly podcast that demystifies and promotes widespread adoption of cryptocurrencies and distributed ledger technology. You're listening to episode number 16, covering blockchain news for the week of August 7th to August 13th. This week on the show, Steve returns. Hallelujah. We talk about Colony, and Steve continues to try and explain mining to me. Do you like our little Donald Trump China throw out to you?
I heard that a time or two in relation to sometimes when the Bitcoin price fluctuates. What's the reason? And then, China. A lot of times the cause of Bitcoin price changing is because China woke up or China fell asleep or something like that.
Literally woke up or fell asleep?
Yeah,
Another day, another market.
Yep, the Chinese like to wake up and buy Bitcoin most days.
How has it recovered since that last big heist?
How has it recovered since the last heist? The Bitfinex heist?
Yeah.
Did you lose any money?
Did I lose any money? No, I didn't have any money on Bitfinex.
Good thing.
Always a good time to tell people that if you don't have the private keys, you don't have any Bitcoin. So when you have your Bitcoin in a site like Bitfinex, that's really an exchange. You're running a risk. We've seen it happen time and time again, and Bitfinex won't be the last. There will be more. The users of Bitfinex, and I'm not trying to blame the victims. It's obviously, that's not what I'm trying to do. But if you have Bitcoin or Ethereum, you should, store them securely. Learn a little bit. It's really not that hard. It's kind of intimidating. There are easy ways to get, a wallet and store them if it's a small amount of money, or do a paper wallet if it's a larger amount of money.
A paper wallet?
Yeah, I guess, one of the confusing things about it is just the terminology of things. With Bitcoin, because it works based off of really, really, really large numbers. So when you get a Bitcoin address, what you're really getting is just a random number. Kind of like an email. If you go to sign up for a username, you have to be like, I want Gary Johnson 2016 at gmail.com. And then it looks to see if that's taken. And if it's not taken, then you can go like Gary Johnson 2016A, or, you have to keep trying to get an email address that isn't taken. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But with Bitcoin, you just roll 64 random numbers.
Is it that many?
Yeah. And that gives you a Bitcoin address, and you don't even check to see if it's taken, because there's the chances of it being taken are close to zero. That you don't even worry about it. So that's what a Bitcoin address is. It's just randomness.
Better than losing 30% of all your Bitcoin?
Yeah, the people on Bitfinex didn't do too bad. They got a haircut, I guess they called it. It's kind of it's strange, because what happened was that there were certain people that had Bitcoin on Bitfinex and GoCoin. Was it GoCoin?
Can you pause? I'm so sorry.
Sure.
I don't. I've said it, but I don't know what Bitfinex is. I don't know what the Fin part is. Is it Finland?
Probably. Bitcoin, Fin, Financial, X, Exchange, my guess.
Okay. So it's like
Coinbase.
Coinbase,
So
right?
It's very similar to Coinbase. I don't think they take Americans for depositing cash, but what you can do on Bitfinex that you can't do on other sites is margin trading, and you can't do margin trading on Coinbase, but you can do margin trading as well as shorting. So there are, financial instruments on both sides there. So that's why it was the most popular at this moment in time Bitcoin site, most the largest in the world, and it seems like the largest in the world always gets taken down at some point.
Like Mr. Robot.
Yeah, have you guys been watching that?
Watched season 1. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
How many seasons are there? Really? Fabulous.
We can't see you here.
Oh yeah, I put up a 2 sign. It's an audio.
I was going to say, why can't you see Mr. Robot in Wisconsin?
What's left?
Season 2 has dozens of Bitcoin references. It seems like they're referencing Bitcoin in every show.
Oh, really? Super.
Evil Corp actually makes its own competing version of Bitcoin called Evil Coin.
Evil coin.
Evil.
There's like a picture of a Wells Fargo truck that's like a Bitcoin Fargo truck or whatever, which is ridiculous because you wouldn't need a armored truck to transport Bitcoin.
Right.
But still.
Blockchain News says that JP Morgan says, disregard blockchain at your own risk. This is the real deal. It's JP Morgan, Chase and Company.
They say to what? Disregard?
They say that if you do, you're a silly person because it's the real deal. And that's JP Morgan Chase.
Jamie Dimon may disagree with that. He certainly has in the past, but maybe has come around a bit. I think that's the owner of, the CEO of Chase. He said that like Bitcoin is useless or whatever. What did he said?
Did he? And now he's like, okay, never mind what I said. It's the real deal, folks.
The banks are coming around quickly, very, very rapidly. They want, they want to be in this space. They want to continue to make buttloads of money for providing very little service to people. Not all banks. There's certain banks that, automatically get a 6% interest rate on loaning themselves money. And those are the type of banks that I'm talking about. Your local bank, your community bank, maybe a different story.
I can't even think of the last time I saw a local or community bank in Los Angeles. Is there such a thing? I don't think so. Because I bothered.
Yeah.
And I ended up going to Chase.
Chase is the devil.
I know. I'm not pining for J.P. Morgan.
It's so hot here.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't believe it.
That's terrible. Is it still? Are you in the middle of a fire?
Feels
there
like
have been
it.
plenty of those.
So I guess your mother says that Ethereum is a scam because of the DAO, right?
Oh, my mom?
Yeah.
Well, I can't blame it all on my mom, my poor mom. She hardly said anything, but yeah, that was the definite. I almost get this all over. I even had a phone conversation with some of my friends in Spain, and I'm more and more getting this impression that people are just like, no, this is scammy. You got to be careful. You can't trust anything. It's not, And it was definitely dismissed. It was like the story that was in the Wall Street Journal that was like just one more nail on the coffin just to show that this is, what? We just, okay, we tried something new, but now it's over. This seems to be because that's about the level of how many people, when they're reading that headline, know anything about blockchain technology other than my mom. What were we just saying? Oh yeah, but the people. One thing that was interesting to me was that talking to my friends in Spain, it was like I was kind of very surprised to see what people were leery about. I definitely got that impression from them. Nobody flat out said it, but they were like, yeah, no, you got to be careful of blockchain. I mean, they don't even know who it was that created it anyway, right? It's like they said it was a Japanese guy and then they found out it wasn't. So it's like the whole thing's a scam. And I was like, wait, I'm not sure about that. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of misinformation about it, about this out there. And, when the press gets hold of, something like the DAO or something like, Bitfinex, he goes to an editor and the editor creates the most catchy headline he possibly can with the limited information he has. And
exactly.
Bitcoin has died 108 times so far. So it's dead. It's been dead 108 times. I'm sure there'll be 108 more times that Bitcoin will die.
Right.
They'll keep saying that it's dead. There was a person who was involved in a company that was a CEO of Bitcoin killed himself, and it was Bitcoin CEO killed himself. Bitcoin doesn't have a CEO. It's a decentralized platform.
Oh my goodness gracious.
So there's a lot of misinformation out there, but I think most people should have a much more healthy dose of skepticism with things, not just about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, but things in general. It's too easy to apply it to things you don't know about, and I think everybody rightfully should apply it to these things until they research it, until they see that, wait, this actually does work. This isn't a scam. It sounds like a scam.
It sure does.
It sure does.
Yeah.
But it's not. As best as I can tell.
Yeah.
You've been hanging out with your mom too much.
Me?
Yeah.
I didn't think it was a scam.
Scammy.
I think that people who are the type to try to break it or try to crack it or steal from it, they go like, this has to have a fatal flaw. This has to be a scam. And they attack it. And it's, there's $10 billion worth of Bitcoin out there that, if somebody wanted to attack it, that's a lot of money. There's a number of people.
How do you know that's the number of Bitcoin that exists?
What's the market cap?
At the moment, it changes with every time the value of it changes, right?
Right. So,
and the amount of Bitcoin changes.
Yeah. It always goes. You can probably tell me this. How many new Bitcoin are introduced with each block?
I don't know. I still don't know. I remember being amazed at what a block. I thought blocks were smaller things than.
Well, they're pretty small. I mean, it's less than 1 megabyte of information. That's kind of what is slowing down the growth of Bitcoin right now. Supposedly intentionally, but I think it's probably the wrong decision. Time will tell. They're going. Maybe there's just different priorities at this time, but one block has a maximum capacity of 1 megabyte, so it's not a ton of information.
Did you know, Sarah?
No, I don't. I always have a hard time with this.
How big is a megabyte?
No, I don't. I mean, that's like when somebody starts, my brain shuts right off, and I have no concept what that means. I know it infuriates people because they continue talking and I continue acting like I understand.
It's 100,000 times smaller than a gigabyte.
Giga.
A gigabyte is like a gigawatt.
1.21 gigawatts.
Okay. And if you get 1.21 gigawatts,
you can travel through time.
Right.
88 miles per hour.
88?
It's funny. That actually was a correct pronunciation of the term giga. Like you hear gigabyte all the time now.
Yeah.
In 1985, nobody really said gigabyte much. They didn't know that he was mispronouncing it. But it wasn't even mispronounced. That was an alternate pronunciation of a gigawatt. A gigawatt. But when Christopher Lloyd said it for the first time, they liked that bad pronunciation so much that they rewrote the entire script, so everything was giga, spelled Jigga.
Oh, yeah. Really?
Yeah. So a block is small. I think that's one of the things that it's a small amount of information. It's less than a megabyte, but it does contain a lot of Bitcoin in it, or it used to, anyways. When Bitcoin first started, there were 50 Bitcoin in each block. And that's just, when your friend was mining, it's a software program that runs on its computer. He has a ASIC chip, and the software, when it creates a block, the mining pool actually creates a block. Then he's allowed the protocol allows one to create Bitcoin out of thin air at a rate of 12.5 currently. It cuts in half every 4 years. Everything is set in stone and known in advance.
Doesn't change, right?
Doesn't change. We know how many Bitcoin there's going to be in 50 years. We know the supply of Bitcoin to this day. And I don't know what the Fed's going to do tomorrow. I know how many Bitcoin are going to be produced.
So what are miners in the future going to do when it's completely not worth it?
The same thing that miners 100 years ago are doing today.
What? Mining for?
Rotting in the ground.
Huh.
Not doing their thing.
So one of the designs of Bitcoin was that we would have the subsidy of the block reward until like 2140. I think is if you do the math, when the subsidy gets below a Satoshi is the smallest unit of Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
So a Satoshi is 7 zeros and a 1. So the 8th decimal place is a Satoshi. 0.00000001.
And anything smaller than that, we're not even going to talk about that.
It doesn't exist. So, when the block reward gets smaller than that, there's no block reward. The code actually keeps dividing it eventually, or it keeps dividing it forever. But there's no block reward. At that point, there's supposed to be, the plan was that every time you make a Bitcoin transaction, there's a fee associated with it. That fee right now is way too large. It's about like 40 cents a transaction, if you want to have it confirmed in the next block, which is very, very costly for a system. That's a lot. Ethereum is half a cent, which isn't that cheap. It's pretty cheap, but I suppose like Dogecoin is, I don't know what it is. It's not even. It's less than that, but.
I wonder what people are using that for.
Using what for?
Dogecoin.
All sorts of stuff. There's a lot of different silly things you can do with Dogecoin. I don't know exactly what people are using it to this day. Probably, the vast majority of it is speculation. But
I'd love to see like a study on, the general expenditure of different types of coin.
Right.
How it defines a certain personality. It says Canadians are moving fast and hard into blockchain space.
Fast and hard.
Where are you getting all your information from nowadays? You guys are like on the ball.
It's a secret.
Just right now I'm on blockchainnews.com. Or I'm sorry, the-blockchain.com.
The-blockchain.com?
Yeah, yep. Yeah. Although when I'm there, the banner says blockchain news, but that's what you get when you go to this website. But solar coin, that sounds like a good thing.
I don't know if that's still doing well or what. I really think that, one of the major issues, certainly in the top 5, might be the most important issue, but climate change and global warming is something like solar coin could take over, could help alleviate global warming. It's something that's going to affect all of us, affect the poor nations more than the more developed nations. And I think having a public ledger that can tackle these type of issues of externalities that the governments weren't designed to move as quickly as they need to move. They're designed to move like really slowly to resist change. But there's some things that we really need to, when we discover that global warming is real and there's like a 99% chance that it's caused by humans, we can't have one major political party saying that it's not real putting forth a candidate that says that it was invented by the Chinese to stifle competition. It's a sick world, and it's something that I think the blockchain can help alleviate if given the opportunity.
Sick world.
Well, wait, are people who are saying that climate change is did you say a hoax?
Well, I mean, it's Donald Trump. Donald Trump says that it was a hoax invented by the Chinese.
Does that
Okay.
mean that he's like not really into alternative energy sources?
I don't know that much about him. That I don't know whether he is or isn't.
It's one thing I liked about Obama. He's super into renewables. Just like Borat.
So the solar coin is intended to be stimulating growth and sustainability in renewable, obviously solar energy. Is that correct? Sometimes I don't understand why there are super special coins. I mean, maybe it's just a piece of the puzzle that it says solar coin is a digital currency rewarding solar energy producers.
Yes. So with Solar Coin, and it's a very interesting coin. I don't know if it's still doing well, but anybody who is a producer can prove to Solar Coin that they are producing solar energy, can get Solar Coin, and they will submit proof that they're producing solar energy, and they get Solar Coin for it. And now you have Solar Coin.
I need some solar coin. Can you hear the crickets?
I can.
The crickets are here tonight because it's hot as hell.
Speaking of Cricket Man, it's going forward. He is going to go to Ether. Well, there's a place called like Ether Camp. Ether.camp. It's like a
Was Nelson the Cricket Man?
Nelson was the Cricket Man, and he came up with the genius idea of an educational
yes.
like DAO thing or an educational blockchain thing, and going to join the Ether Camp hackathon, which is coming up in October, I believe. I think the development team has been finalized.
Oh my God, that's so cool!
So he's got some developers working on it with him, and
that's Nelson?
Yeah.
Oh, way to go, Nelson.
You're the man.
That makes me so fiercely thrilled.
Hey, Steve, I got a question for you. I was locked out of my house, and I was thinking, why don't we have blockchain locks for the house?
Why a lock?
So I walk up, my house just unlocks when I walk up.
Yes, I think that's fantastic. I think it would be, that's one of the
No?
promising companies in the Ethereum space was Slockit. So
We talked about Slockit. Yeah.
Yeah, they were the one who built the DAO.
Oh, fucking poor bastards.
And now they're like, what are we going to do?
They were going to get, funding from the DAO to build their Slockit platform. It was like Universal Sharing Network or something like that, where, they would build smart locks that can, connect to the blockchain and change owners and unlock and do things like that. After, my personal opinion is after the fiasco with the DAO, I don't think that, the Slockit brand can be saved at all. I don't think that. I mean, there's smart locks now that can do similar stuff than that based on your phone.
Yeah.
But it's kind of annoying when they don't work.
I would imagine.
5% of the time. It's like I can't get into my house, even if it's only 1 out of 20 times that it doesn't work correctly. That's my house.
Not a good feeling. Seriously, Steve. You know what I really wish I could do though? I would love to. I mean, probably everybody that like everybody you just spent a week with. Was it a week? I'm pretty sure they all have some concept of what blockchain technology is by now, right?
No, they know very little.
Really?
Yeah,
But they know about the podcast.
they do. They do. I think, they listened to an episode or the beginning of an episode and just got. You start with the island of Yap, and if you're somebody who's interested in it, I guess they just
That's a popular episode.
started researching it. And you can kind of get lost in the details, because you want to know more about this island. And the space isn't necessarily that interesting to everyone. It's not for everyone.
No.
But the good news is that it's a like the marketing people say that you have to have a new idea exposed like 7 times before it kind of like sinks in. And so we're exposing people
Over
to
and
it.
over again.
Yeah, at first it's like, oh, that scammy thing, and then it changes. It becomes, oh, that's real. It's interesting,
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, they're using it.
Yep.
And that's how it works. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people who, don't know anything about Bitcoin, and so the immediate response is like, to laugh it off, to think it's a scam. But the more and more you researched it, it changes your perspective. Especially when something like Ethereum comes along and then shows you, certainly at least a theoretical future where things are different. Where we're able to have a lot of transparency for government entities, where we're able to do, obviously it won't be Slockit who brings. Well, not obviously. It may be Slockit who brings you, smart locks, an Internet of Things enabled blockchain platform. An internet where money is baked right into the browser, as opposed to using a credit card. It's something that's there. It's coming, whether jewelry store guy laughs at it or not. There's one guy who his name is I think Jack DeRose, and he is starting Colony. He was a jewelry maker. He had these really cool skulls that sold for, I don't know, millions of dollars. Did a bunch of different things, and what he went around doing was, when he was making jewelry, he didn't really enjoy his job very much. But he made all these different connections with different people in the world, and when he was finally finished, he was able to make fantastic pieces of jewelry, certainly gaudy, but fantastic nonetheless. A bit of ironic with the amount of gaudiness it was. And he had all these connections with different people, and he was asked if he could like reproduce it for a different
Client?
no, not a different client, but a different like sector of the market. So instead of the jewelry market, reproduce it for, I don't know, cars or something. And he didn't think it was possible, and so he built Colony instead, where Colony is a way for anybody to add put their skills up on the internet and be directly compensated from Colony.
My curiosity is piqued. Is this blockchain related, for one thing?
Yeah, Colony is blockchain related. It's
so it is a blockchain that people would. I was thinking about this. Funny, maybe I'm way off base, but I was thinking about this. Like, is this a Colony? It's a community that you are buying into when you get the software, and by buying into, I just mean using. So like you all have some sort of common language of that blockchain, right?
No, Colony is built on Ethereum. It's a smart contract on Ethereum that allows people to like create an open market for themselves. So anybody can join Colony, and whatever their expertise is, whatever they do for a living, maybe they're a coder, maybe they're a graphic designer, maybe they're an artist, maybe they are a whatever they are, and you can join Colony, and as you do work, you get tokens from the Colony system that are built, it's on Ethereum. And then when you're done, you get rated by your peers. And, whatever your peers determine your contribution was to the final product, that's what you get paid.
Wow, that's pretty neat.
So, certainly in what I guess is termed the gig economy, this is taking it to, the next level, where the gig economy before was kind of like people working for the absolute bare bottom minimum for some corporation that was taking out all the profits, like Uber. I mean, Uber started off initially as like this great thing, I think. But, or Airbnb or, any of these companies that are quote unquote the gig economy, it tries to take as much profit from the producer as possible. The middleman grabs as much as they can for themselves. And so with something like Colony, it's decentralized, so there's really isn't a middleman taking for themselves.
But you vote.
You kind of vote how much impact, on their projects. So they get compensated for what their peers value their contributions for.
Who are you voting for, Steve?
He's not going to talk about that.
In what? In the presidential primaries?
Yeah.
I will vote for myself.
Bodie McBoatface.
I think I voted for my dad last presidential election.
No, you didn't.
I did. I wrote in my dad's.
No, it's amazing how quickly it can shut a mind off. It's like with Alcoholics Anonymous, no affiliations to anything, because boy, that is a good rift maker.
But I think the blockchain is coming for these type of issues, and it's something that really needs to be, the technology really needs to take a forefront. We need to have these trustless systems where, bad intent is assumed for all actors, where it provides transparency to the situation, where if we want to have, a blockchain of, what's going on in the Amazon rainforest, where like say an acre is tokenized, where if anybody does any damage to that acre, they can be held responsible for damages. Maybe something like that. And I don't know exactly what a solution is going to look like, but I believe that a solution will come from this space. That this space is our best shot at actually tackling global warming. The UN is way too slow. Governments are way too slow. The process of how these things are done is way too slow. We need something that can remove that burden. Actually, though, the UN it's another news for blockchain. The UN is looking for 2 volunteers to teach them how to accept Bitcoin donations. That
is so funny.
Why don't you apply, man?
I might. I think, if any of our listeners want to, they should as well.
Yeah, I know. That's pretty. I just this never ceases to.
Yeah, the UN is asking for volunteers to help spread Bitcoin in Africa through research and training.
Well, how about that?
It's pretty cool.
Reminds me of Evil Corp.
Even in Evil Corp, there's, the hero still works for Evil Corp, right?
Exactly. There's always those little seeds of good.
How did you find your guest last week?
Did you like what he was saying? I was following, but not some of the stuff.
Yeah, I didn't understand. I still couldn't quite get the whole concept of mining. I don't know. Gosh. It must just be like it just comes, you hear him and you're like, got it. My brother used to, in Chicago, I know this is ridiculous, but like he used to listen to ball games on the radio, and he said, listen to traffic reports. And maybe my brain doesn't work, but when I hear that, just can't, whatever. And my brother would be like, what are you talking about? It's like saying you can't listen. Well, somehow I can't.
You can't listen. I know people like you.
I could never translate ball games and traffic reports into my brain, and it was like another language to me.
Well, mining it's a difficult concept to grasp, and it's as the guy was telling you, it's kind of irrelevant for most people, because he's getting free electricity and he got a free miner that somebody gave him. So he entered the market for free, and he can run his miner for free, I guess. So, that's kind of the only way. That's what the Chinese built a bunch of electro dams or whatever, and there's so much electricity that they just have to give it away for free as well too. And so what they do is they mine Bitcoin in certain places where there's extra electricity. And and I think he said Washington D.C. He said Washington State was cheap, but I think it's Washington D.C. is actually cheap. It's like 5.9 cents. There are some mining corporations there, as well as Iceland do mining. But so mining is just it's software or hardware. It's specialized hardware that runs specialized software that is verifying Bitcoin transactions. As a reward for verifying those transactions, they get a block, what's called a block reward, creating a new block.
By verifying, information is coming into this thing asking, is this valid? Should we do this? And it checks all of its ledgers that it has and says whether or not it can compare it to something and say whether it's matches or not. Is that what you mean by that?
The blockchain has unspent transaction outputs, or it has, basically, it can go back in time and verify. So if somebody wants to make a transaction, let me start over. Somebody wants to make a transaction. They say, I want to send 1 Bitcoin to Ethan. What a miner would then do is verify my signature. So it'll look at the transaction and make sure that my signature is valid. It's basically a mathematical computation, something quick to verify but hard to counterfeit. And the second thing it would do is verify that I have Bitcoin. And the way it can do that is that it actually goes back through the entire Bitcoin chain to verify that I have Bitcoin. And then if I have Bitcoin and if I have a valid transaction, then it says that this is valid. And that's what miners do. Now, all of that verification of transactions actually doesn't require a whole lot of work. It's actually done pretty quickly for a computer.
But then they're creating blocks too.
And then so as a reward for doing that transaction, for verifying the transactions, a miner can create a block. When they create a block, they're able to, at the same time, create a new Coinbase transaction, which is where the not the website Coinbase or the Coinbase is a new freshly minted Bitcoin. So with their block, with all the transactions that are verified, that are included in the block, they create new Bitcoin. At this time, it's 12.5 new Bitcoin are created.
Okay.
That's it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah. Yeah. It's like you said, you have to be explained something 7 times. Well, that one was definitely clarified a lot. At least I think it did.
Yeah, I mean, it's a simplified version of it. It's incorrect in a few key spots, and it leaves out some details, but it's pretty close. And that's all mining is, really. It's a bit of a misnomer, obviously, because they're not actually mining anything. They're verifying transactions and then getting a reward for doing that.
Yeah, it's a cooler name than verifier.
Right. But it adds confusion, A lot of times these cool names add a bit of confusion to it because you're like, oh, a miner? Oh, I want to do that. It's like whenever somebody first hears about Bitcoin, the first thing is a scam. And the second thing is, how can I be part of the scam? How can I mine too?